We spend most of our lives chasing the wrong idea of strength. We think it's about pushing harder, thinking more positively, or simply grinding through stress. But real mental strength, the kind that holds steady under chaos, that makes clear decisions in pressure, that doesn't flinch when life demands more, that kind of strength begins in the body. It begins at the level of breath. We have been misled. We've been told that carbon dioxide is just waste, a useless gas that the body needs to expel as quickly as possible. But the truth is far more powerful. Carbon dioxide is not just a byproduct of respiration. It is a biological signal, a molecular messenger, a divine trigger built into your system to shape your consciousness, control your physiology, and determine how you respond to the world. It is not the enemy, it is the gatekeeper. And how you relate to this gas, how you breathe, how you tolerate it, how you train it, is one of the most overlooked tools for building mental strength and spiritual composure. Carbon dioxide, when it rises in the blood, doesn't harm you, it instructs you. It tells the body to shift gears. It signals to the brain that something needs to change, and the brain listens, not with logic, but with action. Heart rate increases, breathing quickens. The alarm bells of the nervous system go off not because you're in danger, but because the body has been conditioned to fear the rise of CO2. That conditioning is not your destiny. It can be rewritten, and when it is, your entire system becomes more resilient. You learn to stay calm in the presence of rising internal discomfort. You learn to sit with the fire, and that fire becomes your forge. When you hold your breath and allow CO2 to rise just a little, just enough to feel the pressure, you are not suffocating. You are training, you are teaching your brain that this discomfort is not fatal. You are stretching your tolerance. This is not just about lungs and blood gases. This is about dominion over the flesh. This is about building a mind that no longer panics when stress comes. Because you've already met it in the stillness, in the silence, in the sacred discipline of controlled breath. You've already stared down the rising tide of tension, and instead of escaping it, you stood your ground. That moment becomes a mirror of life itself. The body was never built to be fragile. It was built to adapt. And carbon dioxide is the language of that adaptation. It's the internal signal that demands courage, not escape. And when you stop treating it as waste and start honoring it as the tool it is, you step into a level of power most people never touch. This is not about performance. This is about presence. This is about training your nervous system to respond with clarity when the world turns dark. Because, see, O2 doesn't just speak to the lungs, it speaks to the mind, it speaks to the soul, it tests whether you will break or breathe. Whether you will run or remain, whether you will fold or fight, this is holy ground disguised as biology. This is the fire by which warriors are shaped. Calm is not a mindset, it is not a personality trait. It is not something you are born with or without. Calm is a physiological skill, built through exposure, adaptation, and the willingness to remain still in the presence of pressure. And the measure of that skill, the silent metric that reveals your true capacity for composure, is your carbon dioxide tolerance. When CO2 rises in your bloodstream, your body doesn't stay quiet. It speaks loudly, the chest tightens. The breath shortens, the heart pounds, thoughts speed up, but this is not a flaw, it's a signal, a test. And your ability to remain calm when that signal comes is what separates the reactive from the resilient, the scattered from the stable, the broken from the built. You cannot control stress until you can control your breath, and you cannot control your breath until you can tolerate the discomfort that comes when carbon dioxide rises. Most people can't. They feel a small shift in breath and immediately panic, not because they are weak, but because their system has never been trained to endure the chemical sensation of pressure. It's not the situation outside that breaks them, it's the signal inside, and that signal is carbon dioxide. It is the first wave of the internal storm, and those who have not trained to ride that wave are crushed by it. But there is a way through, a way to rewire your response. It does not require strength of will alone. It requires exposure to discomfort in the right form, and that form is controlled breath, slow inhales, slow exhales, strategic breath holds done not to impress, but to instruct. You are teaching your nervous system to remain unshaken. You are proving to your own biology that pressure is not the enemy, that the signal can rise and you can remain, that you are not at the mercy of sensation, you are its master. This is not just about training the lungs, it is about training the temple. The body is not yours to escape. It is yours to command, and command begins with breath. When you can sit in stillness and feel the rise of CO2 without panic, without scrambling for air, without breaking focus, you are no longer ruled by your chemistry. You are leading it. You are no longer reactive to stress. You are rewriting the script of how your system responds. This is holy ground because it is within you. The breath becomes the ritual. The pause becomes the altar. And CO2, the very thing others fear, becomes your signal to rise, to steady, to stand. Mental strength is not built in comfort. It is built in friction, and carbon dioxide is friction in molecular form. But for those who are trained, it is also fire. And fire does not just burn, it forges. The body speaks before the mind ever understands. And when it comes to anxiety, to panic, to the crushing weight of mental exhaustion, the body has already sent the warning. The problem is not that people are weak. The problem is that they've never been taught to listen. Inside you, there is a silent threshold, your tolerance to carbon dioxide, and when that threshold is low, even the smallest challenge can break you. You feel like you're drowning in a situation that hasn't even touched your skin. You spiral into overthinking, not because of what's happening outside, but because your internal chemistry is screaming for escape. This is the unseen war, and carbon dioxide is at the center of it. When CO2 levels rise even slightly, and your system isn't trained to handle it, the alarm bells go off. Your breathing quickens, your thoughts become fragmented, your muscles tighten, you say you're anxious. You say you're burnt out, but what you really are is undertrained. Your body is interpreting a basic internal shift as a threat. And the tragedy is this: most people live their entire lives this way, fleeing from discomfort that isn't fatal, avoiding challenges that were meant to strengthen them, not because they are mentally broken, but because their biology has never learned to stay in the fire. This is not about philosophy. This is not about positive thinking. You cannot think your way out of a nervous system that's screaming in panic. You must retrain it. You must teach it that the rise of CO2, the pressure you feel in your chest, the urge to gasp, the dizziness is not death. It is a drill, it is a training ground, and through breath, through stillness, through the sacred practice of holding your ground in the face of discomfort, you begin to build tolerance. You begin to reclaim the calm that was always meant to be yours. Mental fatigue is not just from doing too much. It is from fighting your own biology all day long, from reacting to every spike in sensation as if it were danger, from never letting your system settle. A low tolerance to carbon dioxide creates this endless loop. You're tired but wired. You can't rest, but you can't focus. You're alert but not clear. This is a prison of the flesh. And the way out is not more stimulation. It is not more distraction. It is breath, controlled, holy, patient breath that teaches the body to stretch its threshold and meet CO2 with calm. Because anxiety is not just emotional, it is chemical. Panic is not just psychological, it is physiological. And fatigue is not always from the outside. It is often from the storm inside that was never quieted. Carbon dioxide becomes the test becomes the training, and the training becomes transformation. The kind that no pill, no lecture, no motivation can replace, the kind that begins with your lungs, with your stillness, with your sacred decision to stay. Focus is not gifted, it is built. Emotional resilience is not an accident, it is forged, and impulse control is not a personality trait. It is a byproduct of a nervous system trained to remain steady under pressure. You do not earn these things by simply wanting them. You earn them in the unseen spaces, in the places where the world is silent, and all that remains is your breath and your ability to stay. And at the core of this training is one molecule most people ignore or fear: carbon dioxide. It is not just a gas. It is a gate. And when you learn to retain it, when you train your body to hold it longer, to tolerate its presence without breaking, you step into a higher level of command over your biology, your behavior, and your being. When CO2 rises and you do not flee, your brain learns something sacred. Pressure is not a problem. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, focus, planning, self-regulation, begins to light up. Why? Because you are not panicking. You are present. The system is learning that discomfort does not require reaction. It requires discipline, and this discipline does not stay in the lungs. It reaches into your mind. Your ability to focus sharpens. Not because you're forcing it, but because the noise is gone. The inner chaos has been met and calmed, not avoided. Impulse control is born here, in the space between the urge to breathe and the choice to wait, between the rise of sensation and the decision not to obey it blindly. Every time you hold your breath just a little longer, you are rehearsing restraint. You are training your flesh to submit to your spirit. You are practicing command over the instinct to escape. And that practice becomes pattern. That pattern becomes power. You find yourself less reactive in life, not because the world changed, but because you did. You built tolerance in the fire of your own breath. Emotional resilience is not about never feeling. It's about being able to stay grounded when the waves rise. CO2 retention teaches you how to stay. It teaches the heart to beat calmly under pressure. It teaches the mind to remain clear when the signal says panic. It teaches the body that discomfort is not danger, it is development. This is sacred work, ancient, holy work. You are reshaping the way your nervous system interprets reality. You are rewriting what stress means to you. And it's not happening in some distant future. It's happening in real time with every deliberate inhale, every slow exhale, every breath hold that carries you further than before. This is not self-help. This is self-governance. This is the temple of the body submitting to the will of disciplined breath. You are not escaping pressure. You are learning to remain inside it, fully awake, fully aware, and fully in control. There is a way to train the mind that does not begin in books or thoughts. It begins in the lungs. It begins in silence. It begins in the sacred stillness between inhale and exhale, the space where breath is not just life, but leadership. Deliberate breath, holds, and slow nasal breathing are not modern hacks. They are ancient rituals written into the body by design. They are the original form of discipline, the method by which the soul takes command over the flesh. And when practiced with intention, they become the most powerful and direct tools to build tolerance to carbon dioxide, to pressure, to discomfort, to internal chaos, and in doing so, forge a body that follows, not flees. Breath. Holds are not suffocation. They are surrender. Controlled surrender to rising intensity. When you hold your breath, you are not denying the body of oxygen. You are allowing carbon dioxide to accumulate, just enough to stretch your limits. In that stretch, the nervous system wakes up. The ancient circuits of panic light up, and in that moment, the battlefield reveals itself, will versus reaction. And in that moment, you choose. Do you breathe or do you remain? Do you yield or do you command? Every second held is a declaration that you are not mastered by fear, that you are not at the mercy of chemistry, that your breath belongs to your intention, not your instincts. Slow nasal breathing is the other half of the equation. It is not merely calm, it is structure, it is rhythm. It is the anchor that holds the body in divine alignment. Breathing through the nose slows the breath, activates nitric oxide release, and encourages deep diaphragmatic movement. But more than that, It builds a body that is safe in slowness. In a world addicted to speed, slow breathing is an act of defiance, a holy rebellion against reaction. With every extended inhale and every longer exhale, you are building capacity. You are letting CO2 rise in safe, controlled waves. And each wave teaches your system a new language, the language of calm under fire. The combination of breath, hold, and slow nasal breathing is not just a practice. It is a purification. It is how you expose the hidden triggers that make you flee and train them into foundations that make you stay. It is how you learn to breathe in a way that builds warriors, not worriers, priests, not panickers. It is how you take the body that once betrayed you in stress and forge it into a temple of stillness under siege. No tools, no tech, no noise, just breathe, ancient, immediate God, given the fire you need is already in your lungs. And the training ground is always available in the quiet, in the pause, in the choice to breathe slower, deeper, longer, when everything in you wants to escape. That is the path, that is the forge, that is the breath that builds the unbreakable mental toughness, is not forged in fantasy. It is not born from affirmations shouted in the mirror or from momentary bursts of motivation. It begins in the body, in the quiet furnace of the nervous system, and it is built breath by breath, in the places most people run from. Your mind does not exist separate from your biology. Your ability to persevere, to endure pressure, to stay calm when the storm rises, that is not a matter of mindset alone. It is a matter of physiology, and at the center of that physiology is your response to one simple, sacred molecule, carbon dioxide. When CO2 begins to rise in your bloodstream, the body interprets it as discomfort. Your heart rate may increase. Your breath shortens, you feel the need to move, to escape, to react. This is not weakness, this is wiring. Ancient wiring designed to protect you, but in the modern world that wiring misfires. It treats public speaking like mortal danger. It treats emotional conflict like physical threat. It treats daily pressure like war. And this is where toughness must begin, not by fighting thoughts, but by mastering the signal that triggers them. Physiological control is the gateway to mental sovereignty. If you cannot stay steady in your own breath, you will not stay steady in your decisions. If your biology spirals at the first rise of discomfort, your strength is borrowed, not built. But when you train your nervous system to hold, to sit calmly in the presence of rising carbon dioxide, you change the signal. You transform pressure into clarity. You silence the alarms before they rise. You become the one who governs from within, not the one who reacts from without. Every controlled breath, every breath, hold, every moment of conscious stillness under internal stress is a seed of discipline planted in the soil of your flesh. You are not just learning to breathe, you are learning to stay. You are not just building tolerance, you are building spiritual muscle. The kind of muscle that doesn't flinch in crisis, that doesn't retreat in chaos, that doesn't crumble under confusion. And that muscle is not theory, it is trained. It is built in direct proportion to your ability to sit with your own CO2, not panic, not flee, but witness, wait, and remain. This is the temple of toughness, not forged by noise, but by silence, not by force, but by control. It is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming immovable in your peace. It is about reaching the point where your biology no longer controls your reality, you do. Where your body becomes your ally, not your saboteur. Where your mind takes its cues not from fear, but from breath. From the rhythm of a system that has been forged in patience, in stillness, in repeated encounters with the fire, and never running from it.